Well, hey, life groups, it's great to be able to unpack and debrief this final week of this little 3-week mini-series that we've called Our Journey Together, looking at the stage theory that Janet Hagberg and Robert Guelich provide in their book called The Critical Journey. I hope that you've had some fun becoming familiar with it so far and been able to process it a little bit already as a life group. Today, we wanted to focus on the individual next steps that each of us can take. And I was reflecting a little bit on my own spiritual journey, which in the last year or so, I'd probably identify as journeying through a bit of a wall of sorts. And in reflecting on that, I felt like there were 3 different kinds of next steps that each of us could take. Some of the next steps are personal steps that only we can take, that are unique and specific to each of the stages of spiritual development. And I walked through that in detail during the message, so you might want to go back and check that out. The second kind, though, were unique ways that I was able to access the ministry of our community, either through individual people or through specific programs that, again, each of us at each of the different stages has the opportunity to uniquely access. But then more than anything, I reflected on the fact that what was probably most encouraging and most stimulating of my spiritual development over the past year were actually common commitments that all of us could make to each other and that all of us could benefit from, no matter where we find ourselves on a stage theory spiritual map like this. Things like hospitality and inclusion and belonging, things like a warm welcome and encouragement and the support of just the presence of each of us showing up for one another. I think about the encouragement and the noticing of being seen, the sending of texts and emails of support, the offering prayer for one another. And it got me thinking about the way that the church is actually intended to function by each of us and us together being those people for one another. We looked through a few scriptures, in particular in Ephesians 4, where it says, as each part does its own special work, it helps the other parts grow so that the body is healthy and full and growing and full of love. And I think that more than anything, that's what Jesus would intend from all of us, to stimulate and encourage each other's next steps. So as a group, I'd encourage you to reflect on where you're at in the critical journey stage theory, where you might plot yourself. And based on what you heard, what those personal next steps could look like for you that only you can take, no one can take for you. And reflect on ways that you could access our community that are unique to the stage you find yourselves. But more than anything as a group, let's reflect on the ways that we could level up the common commitments that we can all make to show up, to offer inclusion, to give each other the gift of hospitality, to be prayers for each other, to be encouragers of one another, and to offer those interpersonal supports to all of us, no matter where we find ourselves, so that all of us together can take those personal next steps in our personal relationship with Jesus as we as a community together move towards Jesus' life of love that he invites us into. So I hope you have a great conversation as we wrap up this series, and hope that it's a real blessing in your personal next steps in your spiritual journey this week. Take care, everybody.